All right, we're live.
All right. Well, welcome to Painting with Deborah Goley in the city of Goodyear. We are bringing to you a project in watercolor today. And if you haven't guessed already, I have this owl in front of me here. And I thought it would be fun for us to kind of step into fall with some of our feathery friends and really take a look at a little bit of detail. I know it's hard with watercolor to actually do some detail, but I think today I can help you with that. If you were able to look on the City of Goodyear's Arts and Culture page and get the supply list, you should have seen that there were some optional things that you could explore. And I'm going to touch on all three of those today. They're not required for class, but maybe this is something that you want to just try in the future using. And the optional things, I'll just go over those first. You could have some table salt. So I actually have in this little bucket here some table salt and some India ink, which comes, it's a waterproof ink, and it is really nice to have when you're working watercolor, because watercolor is not waterproof. And so I always put just a little tab of it into a smaller container because you do not need this. This lasts me 3 years. This lasts me forever. But this is really wonderful if you're doing calligraphy, words, and you don't want that to bleed into your artwork. Maybe you want to use it for the blacks of the eyes today. So I just love having a little India ink in my arsenal, in my supply cabinet. I also put on the list to have optional was to have some water soluble, washable, it'll say washable on there, Crayola markers. If it doesn't say washable, then it will mark on your paper, but you wouldn't be able to take your brush and just blend with the rest of the colors. So you can even see I've got some India ink that's on the bottom of my marker. But I love having these handy, and this might help too when you're doing some of the feathering. So what else do you need? You're going to need a yucky cup. Yeah, yucky cup, because I don't want that to be my drinking cup. So that's what I wash my brush out with. I have my watercolors handy. So you just need a pan of 8. We're not going to go professional today. If you choose to go professional, just email me at the address you see here, and I can give you an idea of what you should have to start out if you really want to go that route and get some investment going in your watercolor collection. You also need to have some brushes. I have a myriad of brushes. I have a wash brush, and I have what I call a utility brush. It's a number 6. It's just about, I use it for just about everything from fine detail to still doing some thicker lines. You do not need to have these others, but I'll just touch on them. This is called a rigger brush. It has a longer bristle brush on the end. Actually, it's not bristle, it's sable. And then I have, and you could do that to make more long controlled fine lines. I also have another flat brush here, a 1/2 inch flat, and that's still good to be a wash brush. And look at the other end of it. Oh my gosh, I could even use this to do those feathery lines because it's got a little beveled edge on the tip of it. But you could also use a Q-tip as well. Not a Q-tip, a toothpick. I always get those two mixed up when I'm speaking. I don't know why. All right, so I have some napkins handy. I think we got everything. I think we're ready to go. So this little guy that I did over here, I did him in acrylic paint. So you can, if that's all you have today, you want to do it in acrylic paint, that's fine, or your colored pencils. We're going to do it in watercolor today because I like to mix it up. These series that I've been doing with the city, I've been doing half in acrylic and then half in watercolor, just to kind of give you an exploration in 2 different mediums. So, but you can do it with whatever you have handy. You could even just draw today if you want. Now I'm going to use a watercolor pencil to draw with, so that I can draw heavier and hopefully it'll wash out with the rest of my colors. If you have a pencil or you just want to go ahead and use color to draw with right out of your palette, that's fine. I'm going to use the pencil to start sketching the owl and the branch, the leaves, so that you know where everything goes. So I'm so excited. Okay, so let's just get started with this. And let's see if I can't. Hopefully you can see everything in the picture. And we'll get started. All right, so a owl. So an owl typically is round. He is round. And so I'm going to put this big bulbous shape. You see how I'm using my arm? I'm not using my wrist to actually draw the circle, because if I'm using my wrist, I cannot get a circumference that's free and using my arm. Okay, so let's do some more here. We're going to go and draw his head. That'll be fun. And what we're going to do is put this nice little oval right here. Look how I'm overlapping. Hopefully you can see that. I'll go a little bit darker. I've got an oval head on top of my big oval body. See, here's the oval head and here's the oval body. When I'm sketching, I overlap things all the time so that I can see what's going on. All right, now inside of this big oval, we're gonna have two big circles. Two big circles. Oh my gosh, these are gonna be so fun. So we got two circles there. And now I'm going to play connect the dots. Well, before we play connect the dots, let's put two triangles so we can connect the dots around our two triangles. Here we go. There's my little shaped owl. And now to play connect the dots, I'm going to start at the point of the ear. This doesn't mean my ear can it'll change, but at least I have an idea of where it's going, because with watercolor, you can't erase, so you can't go back and fix that. So I'm going to go ahead and go around the face, around the body, just like that. Back around, just like that. And make his head a little bit flatter. See how easy that is when you draw? I like to talk to myself about the shapes. If you can draw a shape, you could do this project. Okay, now inside of the eyeball, I'm gonna make it like a donut. They've got those wide eyes. I actually have a fake owl sitting on my patio on porch to scare away all the pigeons and from all the mess they make. And he's life size, like a big great horned owl. And I even have one that sits on a light post outside. So I know their eyes are huge. They are a night prowler looking for things. Okay, so I've got my two donut eyes. I'm also going to make an interior ring inside the donut. I'm drawing heavy. You do not have to draw heavy, or you shouldn't, because it's too hard for you to erase all the lines. I'm also going to make a small little circle inside for the white of the eye, because we're not using white today. So I want to make sure that I'm not painting inside of that white. Okay, let's decide where the actual limb of this beautiful branch tree that our owl is sitting on. We need to draw that. I love that in nature, nothing is straight. So I don't have to worry about getting my ruler out and fixing that, unless you just want to be more graphic or more cubist. You could certainly make everything straight. Okay, so I'm just going to give it that limb. I'm blocking everything out so I know where it goes, because in watercolor, if I needed this to be yellow, which I'm going to make, I don't want to get the blue into the yellow, because you cannot paint over this area to get it back the way you want it. I could paint, I am going to paint the background first, and if I do get blue into my brown, that's okay because brown's made up with blue. You know, it's made up of all the primaries, blue, yellow, and red. So that's okay. But I am still planning out where everything goes. I'm not even going to bother with where my leaves go yet because green is made with blue and yellow. So it's okay if I get some blue into my leaf area. But I don't want to get it into my eyeballs for sure. If I get some blue into the owl's body, don't have to worry about that either because it's going to be just fine. Yay! Okay, here we go. So I have a beak I've got to put in because the beak for sure cannot get darker. I'm not using any masking today. Masking is what I would use if I just wanted to create a dam or a block right here to keep the brown from getting into the yellow. And I do want to identify where his claws, his talons are, because I don't want to get brown into that. I also want to identify his belly leaves so that I don't get brown into the chest area, okay? Plus this could be wings over here if you want to draw some wings. He's just a plump, cute owl sitting there waiting to see something. If you want to have that little fuzz that I have on the end of his ears, you would need to block that in now so you don't put the blue in there. Okay, he's all ready to go. Don't draw so heavy. If you got too heavy on yours, right? If you got too heavy-handed, you can always take a kneadable eraser. These are so fun. I always say if I'm on a deserted island, I want to have one of these because I can put, if I get bored, I can just sit here and knead it, or I can plug both if I try to get off the island. Okay, I'm going to lighten my pencil lines just a little bit because I drew too heavy on purpose for the camera so you could see it. And even though it's a watercolor pencil, believe it or not, that watercolor pencil dug into my paper. Okay, so I've lightened it just a tad. So you have to knead it because it's picking up the blue tint, or in your case, the pencil. All right, so let's do the blue wash in the background. We're gonna have to do several passes at it because it is a dark color. So I'm going to pick up some blue out of my palette, and I'm just going to start putting it onto the background. Remember, this is watercolor, right? So it's mostly water, and I have a lot of color. So I'm going to pick up some more water only without the color and just spread it around between all my lines. I don't care if it gets on his wing or on the branch. That's why I picked this particular subject, so we wouldn't have to worry about masking, having an owl at nighttime. Everything's kind of dark anyway. Don't want to get in on the ends of his little ears. Okay, so remember I told you I wanted to show you how I use additional supplies to enhance my work, and these were optional, but you could take some table salt while it's still wet. It'll only work when it's still wet, and I can just sprinkle that onto the background, and it's going to make some interesting patterning going on back there. Do not try to take it off while you're painting. Let's try it again. See how cool that is? It wouldn't, see, it doesn't work in the area that is already dry. It has to have water to activate with the salt. I use salt a lot in my work. Salt absorbs the water too, helps us with the dry time. but it also kind of gives us that starry night we're looking for. Okay, so I'm just going to paint down here. So you could run to the kitchen real quick and go grab your salt that you eat with, or you had your eggs with this morning. I love coming to you guys at 11 o'clock in the afternoon, or if you're on a different time zone, the early afternoon. It's kind of fun. Just taking a little break in your day, do a little painting. Plus the lighting is so nice this time of the day. You get just full on natural lighting as opposed to doing evenings where we're using artificial lighting. So that's an advantage. All right, I'm just getting all that background on. I bet yours is looking good. If I'm going too fast, don't worry. You can just replay the video and watch it over and over until you're tired of hearing me speak. You can just mute me. That'd be fine too. We've been calling these sessions together Tuesdays in Tondo. And when I was thinking about the lesson plans for these Tuesdays together, Tondo means in the round, art in the round. And I was thinking about it. I was thinking of what subjects were in the round. And wouldn't you know, we have a round owl. He's pretty plump. So he kind of goes with my theme here. Last month we did a moon, so you could replay that video. It's a round object. Okay, again, I'm leaving those little feathery areas of his face because I don't want to put blue there. Then I wouldn't be able to get light feathers on the tips. Let's see what we can do next. I've got a stack of little napkins here. When I wash my brush off, I swish it around in the cup, and then I keep wiping it on the napkin until it comes clean. I never squeeze the brush, or you're gonna risk pulling the hair out of the metal part of the brush, and you won't be happy because you spend a lot of good money on your brushes and you just want to take good care of them. So, okay. Don't worry that I got my mess going over here on top of my owl. This is an acrylic and it's already, when you time you use acrylic paint, it's sealed. And watercolor is not a permanent medium. So if I spill anything on here, I'll be able to wipe it off easily, just like that. Which reminds me, because this is watercolor, after you're done, you would need to put it behind plexiglass or put it behind glass, so that it is protected from the elements or your fingers. Okay, so, oh, I got a little spot here. Whoops, I forgot. Now I'm gonna have to clean my brush again. But isn't it nice to use these big wash brushes for this? You can get the water on pretty quickly. Color on pretty quickly. If you get too dark in a spot, you can just take your napkin and dab at it. I've been teaching a watercolor class for adults, some of our creative aging folks, for the last few months. And we really get into more of the meat of how to use our brush, how to use the medium to your advantage. Okay, so I'm going to just let that dry. I don't care that it's not perfect. In fact, if I went back now and tried to straighten up this line, I would get a new dry line. And I don't want that. I don't want a dry line there. I'm going to wait. Okay, let's go ahead and work on some of the lightest areas of our owl. And I know that he's going to be kind of golden white, and we're not using much white, right? So I'm just going to put a little yellow on him that's watered down. watered down yellow. And I could skip around. I don't have to always have the whole owl covered. You can tell when I'm in my right brain, I'm speaking in my left side and I'm trying to do art in my right. So sometimes I have a little thought process going and the creative going at the same time. So there's a little stall. Look at him. So I made it a little bit lighter here in the middle, and I gave him a little bit darker yellow on the edges. Now I also know that his eyeballs are going to be golden. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to use my number 6 here, a smaller brush to get in there. I'm not going to water this down too much. Boy, we just got right into it, didn't we? If you have any questions whatsoever, you can email those to me about any of the products I'm using. Also, if you want to submit your artwork to the city's gallery in this class, they have a public virtual gallery that you could put your artwork up and share it with everybody. We'd love to see what you're doing. Just email it to me at this email address right here. I'll make sure the city gets it. Or you can email it directly to the city Arts and Culture. You can access that through the website. Just put the title of your art, whatever you want to title this. All right. So now I've got 2 gold. It looks creepy right now because it's just all eyes. Yeah. And sitting on top of my lamppost here, it's even creepier. Yes, you can still see a lot of my pencil marks that I had to do really heavy for you all. But I'm hoping that through the course of this session, I'll be able to disguise those a little bit more. So I'm not going to worry about it. All right, now I'm going to put a tiny bit of it on the ends of his ears, but I'm going to leave some areas just white since I don't have any white. You can buy white, an opaque white, to add at the end if you want to do that, or to tint some of your colors to make them lighter than they are. I just mostly just use water to tint mine, but there might be occasions where you have a whole piece that needs to be a salmon color, so you need to knock down your red to make it a little more pinkish. Okay, and that you can even buy the white, the Chinese white in a cake form. I've done that on many occasions, and you just take the color out of your pan and put it onto the little cake. Let me see if I've got one of those handy that I can just show you. Oh yeah, here's one right here. I want to show you what that is. So this is just what they call a Chinese white cake. So it's like a hockey puck. It's hard because it's just dried watercolor. So if I put a little red on there, you can see, and a little water, I'm going to get a nice pink shade that I could use. And you know what? Now that I've got it out, why don't I use it for these purple eyes? Just take a little purple. You could just water down your purple, right, to get a light purple. But you can see what I just created there. So I'm going to make his iris purple because I can, right? My yellow is not quite dry, so be very careful if you're painting a wet next to a wet. And you'll have a lot of bleed going on. You can also see that I tape down the edges of my art. One, so I'm not tempted to keep shifting it. I like to keep things right side up and in perspective the way I started drawing it. So I don't encourage my students to shift. I also like the fact that it's helping the edges be less pooling going on. I treated the back by squirting about 2 squirts from my cute little water bottle here. I squirted the back and then I just rubbed gently over the back, let it dry, and then flipped the paper and taped it down. This helps keep it more taut. And you get a nice little edge when you pull the tape at the end, but don't leave the tape on for overnight. You'll rip your paper. And we don't want that happening for sure. Okay, now I've got some purple eyes. I've got yellow on there. And I think I'm ready to start putting a little orange. Okay, so put the next value. And if you looked at yellow on the color wheel, orange is right next to it. Between yellow and red. So you see I've got a little bleed going on there, and I wanted to show you what you could do that. You could take your napkin or a sponge and pick that up. I don't care if it gets into the brown. I kind of like how it's just a little bit going into his eyeball. There's that little ombre effect. And I'm going to go around this one. With my number 6. I'm just working in value, right? We started with the yellow, adding the orange. There we go. And we got his little feet to do. I'm going to just alternate some yellow and orange. Put this, it's Christmas time, you could put a little Santa hat on him. Okay, it's got a few little feet down there, some toes. I'm going to lighten those up just a tad. Wow, my background's already drying. You don't have to worry too much in Arizona. Not a lot of moisture in there. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit of orange into the side. And this is an area too where I could show you how to use those Crayola markers. So I actually have an orange marker here, a washable marker. And what I can do is take it and draw with it. And make some of those feathery lines. I could do a little pattern if I wanted. I love combination. Now you could do this with your brush too. If you study the wings or feathers of a bird, you'll notice that there are patterns going on. Now I take my brush and I can just soften those a little bit so they look more feathery and not like bricks. Okay. Take the yellow one too. Around one more time. Before I do the brown. Isn't it cute? Okay, brown, here we go. I know, saving the dark color for last. So I'm just gonna start putting the brown on. I think I'm gonna use my bigger wash brush that I started with just to get it on a little bit faster. And look, it's the same width as that. That's a design bonus as my twig. This is a 1-inch wash brush. I'm using 140-pound paper, a 9x12. You can buy it on a block of paper or in a pad. You could do a single sheet and cut it to the size you want. I can tell it's bleeding with a little bit of the blue over here that's not dry, but again, I don't care because brown is not on the color wheel. It's made from all the colors. Ooh, I got some purple in there, which is fine. It's from the color wheel. Using the side of my brush to just push against the edge of the tree limb to make it a little bit darker on the bottom of the branch where the moonlight is not hitting it. Just like that. So then it becomes more three-dimensional as well. I'm going to leave the top of it a little bit more white so that it looks like the moon's hitting it. But I am going to fill in a little bit between his toes. And later I'm going to put a little shadow on that bird. Or from the bird onto the branch. Okay, let's do some painting of the bird, because right now he looks like a snowy owl, which is not a bad thing either. Okay, so we are going to take our number 6 because the wash brush will be too big in there. And I'm going to put my first coat on, and I'm going to paint the way that hair or feathers grow. So I'm going down the side of the bird, putting this first wash layer on there. Da, da, da. I'm gonna go over here and do it as well. I hope you're enjoying this. It's a lot of fun. can't wait to see yours. Email it to me. Okay, so up here, I realized that his hair really grows this direction. So I want to avoid keep giving him a flat top up there. I need to go this way and go toward the flat top. So that if any hair goes above the line, it just looks like little hair. This is the first layer. We're going to put another layer on top of some details. A little, think of it like skin, right? Think of it as like your skin layer. And then we'll put all your hair on your skin. You have to have this base coat on. Get it out away from the eyes. Hope everybody's enjoying these and taking a break from whatever you're doing. Have time to be creative. It is a great stress reliever too. Although some of you are thinking, no, I can't paint. It's too stressful. But I think we're our worst critics. And the more you do it and practice the medium, the more you gain more confidence in your work. Besides, it's just as important to explore and discover, try a new skill, find out what you love, don't love. How will you never know if it's something that you really will enjoy doing until you try? And I think it's been a good time for people to slow down and discover a new skill. It's always a good time. Okay, I just about have everything with a little bit of base coat or skin. First layer of paint. See, I'm just hiding all my pencil lines now. Da, da, da. Oh, I'll put a little bit of that over here into the abyss. Okay, I'm gonna kind of let that dry for just a minute, and then I'm gonna go make it look more like hair, or their actual feathers. When I say hair, I mean the feathering effect. All right, but while that's drying, oh, I've got more branch to do over here. Oh my, I'm gonna get that done. Kind of working around the canvas so I can give things time to set up. I have some areas that could be a little bit darker than others. You could add little oak lines. Yeah, I'm just using some purple. Look how dark that purple is. You wouldn't think that. Purple's made from blue and red. I'm using very little water, just dry brush with purple here. Making some character marks in my wood. Plus purple is a great shadow color. Look at that. Okay, let's do it the way something grows, and it's going to go up the tree. Have all these little oak lines or crevices. And all these beetles hanging out. All right, so while we're waiting for that, let's go ahead and work on the leaves. So let me move my palette of paint over a little bit so you can see the leaves that I have in the picture. I love just kind of filling out the rest of the canvas with background. And you could either dip it into the green. I'm gonna show you just dipping it into the green. And put a little leaf right up here. It's gonna go right over the blue, see? Or you could dip it into the yellow. What's gonna happen? You get a yellow leaf. Magic, it's a green leaf. So you could have a combination of both. You could draw with your yellow and fill it in with the green, or if you don't have green, you could make green. It's just picking up the blue that's already on the paper. I didn't shake off the salt before I did this, just putting it right over it. Have all the same size leaves or some smaller ones, you decide. And go a little bit lighter on this side. So I have mostly water on my brush and less green. See how you can do this in acrylics or watercolor. And I love how the salt's making like little textures in there. Let's have one that kind of hangs out down here. You'll be able to shake the salt off at the end when everything's dry. You could have it more dry brushed, a little bit more texture by not adding so much water to your brush. You can take your brush and add little tiny little stems that connect back to your tree trunk. And you can, maybe it needs one more up here, I think, going off the page. Okay, and maybe there needs to be one over here. All right. I can see I've got a couple of little blue spots there. I'm just gonna, I could fill them in with brown, or I could put a little blue back in there. Trick is to have mostly tint, a little bit of water, and then you'll see me add water. Just kind of drag it out so I don't have a drawing. I have a little pooling there. You can see the ripple. Tonight I will, after it's completely dry, turn it upside down and put a couple of copybooks on top. Try to flatten it out a bit. Bring all that in. Hope you're having fun. Anyone can do this. You can teach your kids and grandkids how to do that. How to feather. I've been teaching feathered friends in watercolor with my adults this past month, so it's been quite fun. You can check out my Facebook page and see some of the work. Just look for Deborah Goley Artist. So it's not just Deborah, oops, it's not just Deborah Goley, but it says Deborah Goley hyphen art. No, colon art, that's it. Colon. Now I got a happy accident down here. Obviously I had some kind of little drip, so I'm just gonna make that into another leaf. And nobody will be the wiser. And then I'm going to take my napkin and clean up around it so it has time to dry. Maybe I could put a little blue back in there. So, yeah, it's not a forgiving medium. You have to just be okay with the fact that there's little imperfections everywhere. There's no perfect in art. I tell my students that all the time. Just opportunities. I was recently interviewed at Arts HQ with the West Valley Arts Council for an exhibit that I have going on right now in the gallery. And you can look up that video too. But one of the questions that they asked me was, what do you tell an emerging artist? There's no perfect in art, and you are your worst critic. And I did talk about the mutable arrays. Okay, now I think I've just about touched everything I want to touch. I want to keep some white areas in there. I'm going to go back to the owl. So I can take my brown marker if I want and make little bitty feathery marks on his wing. This has been so fun doing this with you all during the pandemic when we started, and hopefully these will continue and bring you joy. I know I'll keep doing art for sure. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of go around his toes a little bit. Now some of that brown you see got into the blue where I just touched up because I was impatient and didn't wait long enough. So I can try to get it up, but looks to me like I'm going to have a dark spot there. So I'm just going to make his wing a little bit bigger. It looks a little lopsided anyway, right? Okay, I'm going to take a number 6 with hardly any water on it. Hardly water. That means I'm going to dip it in the water, but I'm going to dab it off and just go over these marks very gently, just to make them feathered out. See, it takes on a whole new look when you do it in watercolor. And this is how you would do the painting if you only had an hour of time. If you really want to mask and take your time, I encourage that. You could do it again and see how many owls you could make. But take your time, and you can make things more detailed if you're a detailed person. Okay, I'm gonna just cover up that make a happy accident by making him fatter there, make him fluffier. Speaking of fluffy, I'm just taking the number 6 and going around the edges now. Making him a little bit fluffier. Plus it's hiding any of my white lines. This is going to pull it all together. I might even put a little purple in there for shadow. I'm going to dip into the purple, no water, just tint. Put some purple on the bottom. Purple is just kind of my signature shadow color. You may like mixing the opposite of colors. Okay, put a little purple between his toes. Now, remember, shadows are the absence of light, and they are just not an object. They're just the absence of light. So, if you get too dark with the shadow, you want to kind of go back and clean it up a little bit because you still want to see the limb underneath. Yay. Okay, now I'm going to put a little bit of that purple into his side of his wings, like that. And then I'm going to go around the eyeball a little bit. There's some shadow there. Go back to some brown. A little feathering into his face. Barely hitting, just flicking my wrist a little bit, just barely hitting. And you could do this with the marker too. Going into his hands. And water down my brow. Using the side of my 6. His chest a little bit. And now I'm going to go up here and do it around his eyes. Oh my gosh, I bet yours is looking good. And I know we haven't, the only thing I haven't used is that India ink, but I will be getting it out because I want to show you how to use it in case you decide you want to go get some. Oh, he's so cute. A lot of the times I'll do my artwork and then I'll photograph it and turn it into piece of fiber art. I'll collage it, sew through it. I have loved doing that the last few years. Just an extension of what I do. You can create with anything. Oh, I like how that's happening there. It looks like there's a big piece of branch that was sawed off. I just put some rings in there. Oh, I could show you how I use that edge of my brush. Some rings like that. Okay. Now I could use black right out of the watercolor pan, but I choose a lot of times to not use that because it's not as black as the India ink. But before I do that, I'm going to put a little bit of some stems, veins. So I'm just going to use blue, not watered down, in the middle of my blue. Veins that feed the leaf. Again, I'm going with the way something grows. So the veins on the leaf go to the outside. Okay. And I kind of want a little bit of that blue closer to under his ear so there's more contrast between the lightness of his ear. So I'm just going to darken that a little bit under there. The moon's on his head, so I don't want that to get too. Just gotta go around your whole painting, see what you need to add. Okay, let's get out the India ink. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be fun. It's gonna pull it all together. Okay, so I'm gonna open up my little container very carefully. I'll do it over here. Although it is permanent, if I spill it on my acrylic, it would definitely cause a problem. And I'm gonna use, you don't have to dip your brush in water with India ink. That would defeat the purpose unless you want to water down your black, which can be done. So I cleaned off my brush, dried it off, and I'm now going to put black. See, you can get a really fine point with your number 6 watercolor brush. I'm barely touching, barely any paint on my brush. And I can get a nice deep black. And because the lavender is dry, it is not, the black is not bleeding it whatsoever. You can use your black watercolor if that came in your set, or you could just mix up a really dark color for the pupils by using your purple and your blue, green, believe it or not, because that has the blue in it. Okay. Now I'm going to do another little ring. I'm going to try to just do a continuous circle without pushing up, picking up so much. See, it cleans right over any of my little problem areas. I don't try to get too flustered with little mistakes. Okay, I'm going to do another little ring. This one's going to be more feathery. And it's going to have some little bit of black on the tips of these cute little ears. And then on his claws. And then I could give him a little bit around his nose. And maybe just a little bit between his wings. You gotta know when enough is enough because black is so opaque and powerful that it can take over your drawing. I'll give him a little bit of, I'll give him some eyelashes. Why not? I've never in my life been able to do 2 paintings all the same. And that's no fun. You develop as an artist and change. Sometimes you feel more whimsical. Put a little bit under here where there's a transition from the face to the chest area. And then just do some little wispy lines. Flicking my wrist. And I'll put some into, ooh, I really like how that worked out. And we're almost done. Oh my gosh. Tell me it's not so. Tell me it's not so. So, to sign your name, you can either do it with India ink, which I don't know why I just washed off my brush for that, or you could sign it with a color. You know what? I might I might just stick with the India ink. If you're using India ink, let me just show you on the paper here. So each letter, you're just hitting the paper very gently with the tip. If you're going to use watercolor and not the India ink, each time you do a letter, you're going to redip. So if I'm going to do it, how could I do it right here? I'm going to do, now make sure it's dry. Don't put it somewhere where it's wet, because then you're just going to mix red with blue and get purple. And that cannot be. You just end up making a purple sky and not your name. And there's my name. And voila, you now have a painted owl. You could add that, cute little hat, but you would have had to put a hat on him before you started, because you would end up, you have a red Christmas hat, and red with the blue would make purple. And they end up with a purple winter hat, which is a bad thing. But just plan with watercolor, you have to plan because you can't paint over it. So plan where you want all of your features, and then it's not such a bad task at all. So I hope you've enjoyed painting with me today. If you need to contact me about anything, just send me a note to Deborah, DEBRA, at DeborahGoleyArt.com. My website is DeborahGoleyArt.com. You can keep following me there. And until we meet again, keep creating, because you are uniquely created by an awesome, awesome creator. So keep on painting. Keep loving what you do and doing what you love. Until next time.